By this point, we have a rough idea of what they're trying to do with Assassin's Creed Origins open world. They're trying to create an immersive open world experience full of stuff to explore and stuff to learn. But when it comes to an open world experience in Assassin's Creed, there is one thing that you have to get right, and that is definitely the cities. Assassin's Creed Unity and Syndicate focused a lot on large crowds, which may or may not have been the right thing to do. This is because the majority of people just wind up standing around and changing form because of glitches and things. I will give credit though, the cities did feel alive to an extent. However, in the games beforehand, like Black Flag in particular, the cities were quite washed out and didn't feel as alive. And considering that we haven't seen anything of the cities in Assassin's Creed Origins, I suppose we can speculate a little bit about them. The only thing we have seen are two very brief gameplay shots in one of the demos. So yeah, those frames that I showed you, that's it. In the first of the two shots, I have noticed on the street below there aren't very many people. That's because they have said they're not going to put too big crowds in there. They said that the crowds aren't as big, but they are alive. So hopefully, despite not having too many people like overcrowding in the cities, hopefully we have an alive experience that's very immersive. Also, considering it's a massive open world game with loads of things outside of cities, loads of wildlife and things, you need to be able to go into the city and feel as if you're somewhere else entirely. Whereas in the open world you might go a long distance without seeing too much, in the cities there's lots to see, lots to look at wherever you are in the city really. And there's got to be focused on its districts as well. So you need to have these different districts. You have rich districts, poor districts. That would make for a really different experience, even in the city alone. Now, the crowds can't be too big because obviously technical ramifications, as we saw with Unity. But they can't be too small either because, let's be honest, if they're too small, it won't feel like a real city. And in a lot of previous Assassin's Creed games, if not all of them, the majority of things that the people do is just walk around. There needs to be more doing things, there needs to be more looking through shops, there needs to be more interacting with the world from these NPCs rather than have them just walking around aimlessly all the time. Maybe you might be able to, instead of hearing just the bustle and stuff, maybe overhear conversations if you're close enough to people. You hear them talking about things, maybe talking about things like news that's gotten across. Say if you've done something somewhere and word travels and things like that. Stuff like that. Stuff that adds to the immersion, makes you feel like you're a part of the world, and makes the world feel like a part of the game as well, and make the entire game just come together a lot nicer. Other things you may be able to hear people talk about should definitely be just random shit, because that adds to the immersion as well, because not everything that you would hear in the city has to be related to you, which would be interesting because you'll be able to hear all these conversations from people and they're talking about random things that are going on. That would definitely add to the immersive experience. Another thing that would add to the immersive experience would definitely be domestic animals. Basically how they've been done in the past, except apparently the animals will now respond to Bayek in a more different way. So some animals may respond some ways, others may do in other ways, which would be very interesting to see how that pans out. Like we saw in a demo, a cat came and sat by Bayek's feet. Small features like that would make you feel a part of the world, especially in the cities. I feel as if what happens, what you see, what you interact with, what you hear, should all depend on what district you're in. Say if you're in a rich district, people might look down their noses at you a little bit, and say you're in a poor district, people are a bit rougher sounding and things like that. Say in a poor district, you might run into beggars quite often, and say if you're in a rich district, you might just get the odd snide remark from some guy passing you. And say in a poor district, everybody has poor clothing, and in a rich district, everybody has more variant and interesting clothing that looks more colourful and richer. Now what would add to the experience are some really nice sound effects. So like you have this bustle ambience going on and you have people talking, you hear people saying things, you hear cats doing what cats do and dogs barking. But on top of that, it would be really nice to have some city-based soundtrack musically so that you have this ambience in the background while you're exploring, stuff that I really liked in the older Assassin's Creed games. In Assassin's Creed 3 they removed it entirely, in Unity they removed it entirely, but I'd honestly prefer to have this soundtrack there. And considering that there is ambience in the background of gameplay demos, I'd assume that there is one for the cities as well. The cities really need to give off their own unique atmosphere that isn't experienced anywhere else in the world. It can't have the same atmosphere as a small village or a little town. It has to have its own city dynamic that feels like its own world. but at the same time it feels like a part of the overall world. And I feel as if, considering that the Black Flag team, or the Origins team as they're known as now, are working hard on this game, they're passionate about it, and they want to basically give us an experience that is similar to that of what ancient Egypt would have been like, or at least how they would have perceived it, I'd imagine that the city experience will be something to behold just as much as the rest of the game. Also, being a massive immersive experience, it will need a lot of side quests and things to do in the game itself, in the city. So you may randomly encounter somebody who needs you to take some form of message across the town. No idea what that would be a thing. Maybe you'll run into someone who's been murdered and you'll have to investigate that, find the killer and kill them. Or maybe you will find a pickpocket, you'll chase them down, you'll catch them and recover what they stole. Or maybe just these small little things, or maybe big things, like someone will tell you that their son has gone missing, they've been missing for a few days, and then you have to go out of the city into the open world and find them and bring them back to the city, or let the person who contracted you to do this know that they're alright, and things like that, and it would be pretty immersive and cool, wouldn't it? I feel as if stuff like that would really add to the experience. So in my mind, the cities should be immersive, rich with stuff to explore, rich with stuff to do like quests and maybe the odd collectible. I mean, they're not all bad, like chests and things, they're fine. A good soundtrack and the NPCs interacting with the world and responding to you accordingly, stuff like that would be really good. But that's my mind. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. What do you think the city should be like in Assassin's Creed Origins? And I will see you all in the next one with another video at some point. So yes. Fallout.